What's going on, guys? This is Saturday Afternoon Wrestling, and it is a great day to talk about wrestling because it is a packed weekend of shows. It is a packed Memorial Day weekend of shows. So there is no doubt something for everyone to enjoy. We have got Saturday night's main event, WWE NXT Battleground, and we have AEW Double or Nothing, all happening Saturday and Sunday. Not to mention the hours of weekly TV that we had, the TNA show that just happened Friday night. It is a heavy time to be a wrestling fan right now, especially if you're trying to keep up with everything. So just want to talk through all of the shows happening this weekend, kind of where we're standing on some of these storylines, make some predictions, and get everyone out of here to enjoy their 3-day weekend, their Memorial Day holiday weekend. Get ready to watch some wrestling. So let's do it. Before I do that, I do really quickly want to point out one thing that has been dominating headlines. It is a busy week for wrestling. It's a big weekend for the WWE, and still, somehow, the only thing I'm hearing about is WWE deciding to pull WrestleMania from New Orleans next year. It is an interesting decision in that it is kind of like unprecedented. WWE isn't usually one to just uproot right like that once it's been announced. I don't think tickets were on sale quite yet, but if they were, it's even more unlike them and uncharacteristic. And I feel bad for the fans in New Orleans because the consolation now is they'll host Money in the Bank 2026 next May, which is crazy. It's crazy to go from a WrestleMania to Money in the Bank when you think about what hosting a WrestleMania does for the economy of the city. And that now, there's no word yet on where they are going to now that New Orleans is out. The reports I've read have said everything from Las Vegas to the UK to Saudi Arabia. And obviously, two of those are wonderful ideas, and one of them is not. um, I can't fathom a WrestleMania overseas really at all. So to me, this kind of is teeing it up for a return to Vegas for the second straight year. We just had WrestleMania 41 there, but as WWE is prone and proud to say, it is one of, if not the most successful WrestleMania of all time in terms of ticket sales, house revenue, attendance, social media impressions and views. They'll put every stat out there to tell you how big it was. And so you don't need to think about it a lot to realize they probably made, dump trucks of money. And it probably was good for Vegas, which has been kind of hit or miss in recent years, post pandemic. They haven't had the same tourism numbers, I guess. I was going to say attendance, but the tourism numbers are down. More families are going, and more families going means less time for people gambling, doing all those things. So I'm sure it's mutually beneficial to the city to say we will pay any amount to have you come back and do this again. And there was a report that went along with that, the Vegas rumor, that was going to kind of become maybe like a home base of sorts for WrestleMania. And like they would have a WrestleMania in Vegas like 1 or 2 or even 3 years in a row, and then go somewhere else, and then go back to Vegas and kind of operate out of Vegas, similar to how UFC does it, where almost all their shows are at the T-Mobile Arena until they branch out and do, New York or LA or overseas or whatever it is. And I kind of hate that. I think part of what makes WWE so cool is having the different crowds every week, and especially for those big shows. I think if anything, you give WrestleMania to London and you host it. I don't know where you would host it, if you would host it at Wembley or the O2 Arena or what they would do, but I think that would be an incredible thing because those London fans, those overseas fans are kind of constantly making the stateside WWE crowds look awful, but by comparison. So I think that's probably a bridge too far, especially now that all of this info has come out about Vegas specifically. But I'm holding out hope that we get one of those big pay-per-views, a Royal Rumble, a WrestleMania, something in London soon. And this maybe was just an attempt to kind of gauge interest. But I feel bad for the people of New Orleans. And it's a bummer. It's weird to see though. It is definitely a sign that this is a new era and time for WWE, because I don't think the old regime would ever do anything like that. And it also kind of goes to show TKO owns both UFC and WWE, because you can see the alignment in infrastructure here kind of taking more and more shape every single week with these new news items coming out. But enough about that. Let's get into this weekend's wrestling. We are packed with wrestling, like I said. Starting with Saturday, we have Saturday night's main event happening tonight. And it was interesting because there were only 4 matches on the card until like after SmackDown had gone off the air. After SmackDown went off the air, we got confirmation that we were going to have Chelsea Green versus Zelina Vega for the WWE Women's United States title at Saturday night's main event. It's the only women's match on the card, and it got added like less than 24 hours before the show, which is crazy. But that brings us to 5 matches on the card. Let's go Wikipedia order here. We have that match, Zelina Vega versus Chelsea Green for the U.S. women's title. I think that this is probably a successful Zelina Vega defense here, and hopefully a launching point for Chelsea Green to go after the women's title and either challenge Tiffany Stratton or start to compete for Money in the Bank. I think she's someone that you definitely want in a Money in the Bank type match because she is fearless in so many of those big spots. I think she had one last year where she crashed through, I think it was 2 or 3 tables off the ladder through the tables. Like, you need someone like that to bump like crazy and make everyone else in the match look good. And that kind of feels like a Chelsea Green special. So I think this will be a fun match. Chelsea Green is on an incredible run right now, and she's making kind of everyone she works with look better. And I think that this will be the case here, where they have a really fun match and it helps elevate Vega as a title holder and hopefully propels Chelsea Green towards Money in the Bank and the women's title. Next, we've got Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre in a steel cage match to, I think, blow off their rivalry. I don't know. Drew McIntyre got the big win at WrestleMania, and now we are running it back, presumably so Damian Priest can win. I think that this should be maybe a McIntyre win because he's just had so much momentum. I wouldn't want to do anything to take that away. But I know that, like, based on everything we see and read, it feels like WWE is pretty high on Damian Priest. So I don't think they want him losing that many times. So I'm going to say Damian Priest gets the win here. And I think this will be a low-key show-stealing match. I think these two are incredible in the way that they're, like, willing to, like, just completely sacrifice their bodies for the show and for their matches. And so I think that that's going to play a part here with the steel cage stipulation. I fully expect these guys to be just unhinged. Next, we have got R-Truth versus John Cena in a singles match. Title's not on the line. This is just a fight after John Cena AA'd R-Truth through the conference table at the post-conference for Backlash last month. And I don't know. I'm happy to see R-Truth get this spot. I think that he is someone that has deserved a little bit more legitimacy and a little bit more serious, like, I guess, to be taken more seriously. And he definitely has earned that through his years of being so committed to the bit with anything they give him. At that said, this is just such an odd thing. I don't know what we're doing here with this John Cena heel turn, because at the end of Backlash, we had the moment of him standing there waiting to leave, like kind of looking remorseful. Then he came into the press conference and talked about, like, I got to be nicer to you guys, to the reporters that were there. And then it ended with him hitting R-Truth with the AA. So I don't know if they're trying to do this as he's conflicted, or if they're going to, like, hit the eject button on this all and bail on it early and have R-Truth, like, beat him, like, not beat him, but bring him back to the side of being a babyface, or what. Or this could be the opposite. This could be John Cena's Brock Lesnar moment, where Brock Lesnar, like, beat down John Cena in a huge squash match, left the crowd stunned. I could see that happening too. Like if John Cena, like, what do you think the reaction would be if he beat R-Truth to a bloody pulp in a one-sided 5-minute squash match? Like someone like R-Truth is good in these types of roles because he's beloved by basically everybody, but they run the risk of it being like, I don't know, just not as effective as it could be because they just brought this R-Truth storyline out of nowhere. Now they have the benefit of R-Truth being such a longtime John Cena fan and that being part of his character, so you don't need a lot. But the fact that he went from basically kind of doing nothing to this so fast is just kind of like tying one arm behind their back from a storytelling purpose. So I'm going to say John Cena wins, and I'm going to say that this is to really push this heel turn into another level and kick it into some gear. And I think he really beats down R-Truth. So we'll see, but it could go either way, and I wouldn't quite be surprised. But I think we're going to go just one step further, and beating R-Truth down, who is such a self-proclaimed super fan of John Cena, will be like the final nail in all the stuff he said about the fans storyline that we've been doing. Next, we have got CM Punk and Sami Zayn in a tag team match against Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. And I don't know if this is the main event or not. It's listed as the second to last match. But I imagine if something big is going to happen, this will be the main event. And I feel like something big is going to happen. I don't think Braun and Seth lose their first big tag team match. They've been kind of like teasing some stuff with Sami Zayn here. I don't know if he's going to be the one to turn heel and join them, or if he's a fake out and someone else that we don't know is going to join them. But I don't think there's any way Punk and Sami win this match. It's more really about what's going to happen after this match. It's how it ends and where we go that is going to really matter in the terms of this story. And then finally, listed as the main event, I don't know what it will be, if it will be the main event. We have Jey Uso defending the men's WWE World Heavyweight Championship against Logan Paul. And the way WWE has gone lately with some of these things, I want to say I cannot imagine them putting the belt on Logan Paul. But, in the back of my mind, in the deep recesses back there, it's there. The thought is there that like I could see them doing it. They don't care. Like it's headlines and impressions and views now. Like that's what matters. So I don't know. I genuinely I think the fact that Logan Paul has ended like 2 or 3 Raws in a row standing tall is a good sign for the wrestling logic that Jey Uso will be retaining to go into a rematch with Gunther. But I hate to say that we can't be 100% sure until it's over and he's yeeting away and holding the belt and everything's good. So I'm going to say Jey Uso. I hope Jey Uso, but I've been burned by WWE before, so we'll see. And then we have 2 shows on Sunday. We have NXT Battleground first up. I think actually these are both going to be happening at the same time. I think Double or Nothing and Battleground are at the same time. But we'll start with Battleground here. And again, 6 matches. I fully envision this to be an every match gets plenty of time type of showcase. So first up, we have got listed here Hank and Tank, the NXT Tag Team Champions, teaming with Josh Briggs to take on the Culling, which is Brooks Jensen, Sean Spears, and Nico Vance. And this feels like a Culling win and a Josh Briggs heel turn to realign him with Brooks Jensen, because since that team has broken up, those dudes have not done like anything separately. They need to get back together and do something. And a heel turn for Briggs, it's not gonna set the world on fire, but it gives him something to do and it puts some more meaning to Brooks Jensen because those guys worked so well together. So we'll see. But I think this is fully set up to be the Briggs turns on Hank and Tank, and then we get Briggs and Jensen feuding with Hank and Tank, which is kind of like a weird like multiversal combination of wrestlers and teams. But I think it'll be pretty straightforward in that sense. Next, we've got Sol Ruka and Kalani Jordan. Sol Ruka defending the women's North American title. And this one is interesting. This one's kind of hard to call because there's been some teases of tension with Sol Ruka and her tag team partner Zarya lately. There's been some teases of Kalani Jordan going a little more aggressive, a little more heelish in her matches and her attitude. So I think this could go either way. I think a Sol Ruka Zarya match probably makes a little more sense for the title, but I wouldn't completely discredit a Kalani Jordan win happening here. I think her first run with the title was fantastic. It was just constantly good matches. So I could see the appeal to putting the belt back on her, but at the same time, same with Sol Ruka. You have two insanely talented athletic performers that can go out there and have good matches with just about anyone. So the edge, the tiebreaker goes to Sol Ruka and Zarya being a little bit better of a feud, and just a little bit more compelling. So I'm going to say Sol Ruka retains, and then we kind of just go from there and see what happens. Next, we've got Tony D'Angelo versus Stax in a singles match. I thought this had a stipulation, but I guess not. And this should be a Stax win. I have said, like, for every NXT event for the last 6 months that Tony D'Angelo is going to lose and get called up to the main roster. But this one, I think we're getting into the realm of that actually happening, because I think we're going to get an Adriana Rizzo heel turn as well, and align her with Stax and just have it be like the family has decided that Tony D'Angelo is old news. The problem with that is I don't know where he goes from there in NXT aside from feuding with them, but you don't send the mob boss character up to the main roster without the mob behind him, because otherwise, what's he doing? So I don't know. This one's an interesting one for me. I think Stax wins this for sure. I think Rizzo turns and joins Stax for sure. But I don't know what that means for Tony D'Angelo. And it's crazy to be saying that after months and months of banging the drum for he's going to go to the main roster. He's ready for the main roster. Next, we've got another match that is incredibly hard to predict. It is Joe Hendry defending the TNA World Heavyweight title against Trick Williams. And I really don't know what to do with this, because it feels super WWE to put the TNA title on one of their guys. But at the same time, I just can't see TNA going for that. Unless Trick Williams is going to be on TNA every week and NXT every week, I just can't see them having Joe Hendry lose. But the flip side of this is it's going to be a ton of eyes on this show. It's going to be a massive look for TNA. So maybe him winning, Joe Hendry winning and retaining, is a good way to bring eyes, or they're going to go the other way and have Trick win and hope that brings more viewers that are coming from NXT that want to see Trick. So I really don't know. I'm going to say Joe Hendry retains just because I love Joe Hendry. And I guess I should say I believe in Joe Hendry. So I'm going to say Joe Hendry retains, but this one is probably the hardest one to call for me for the night, because I could absolutely see WWE somehow getting that title onto Trick Williams. Next, we have the NXT Women's title on the line. Stephanie Vaquer defends against Jordan Grace on another really hard to call match. I just think Stephanie Vaquer is close to untouchable right now. I think she picks up the win. Maybe there's some underhanded tactics. Maybe there's some interference that ends it like schmazzy with a DQ, a double DQ or something. But I think Stephanie Vaquer, it needs to be the focal point of the NXT women's division for, as long as they can keep her down in Florida, because she is most definitely earmarked for the main roster at some point, probably in the next 6 months, if I had to be honest. She has been incredible in the opportunities they have given her on the main roster so far. So I can imagine they are more than ready to add her into that mix. So I think they keep the NXT women's title on her for as long as they can, just to get as much possible from her stint down there in terms of matchups and helping build new stars and giving, so many contenders a look in those marquee matches. But Jordan Grace is also someone you can easily build a women's division around, because TNA did it for years. We've seen it be successful. So I don't think quite it's Jordan Grace's time to hold the main women's title yet. Could see her easily going after the North American women's title. But man, but talk about just being flush with talent. That NXT women's division just somehow continually finds these new stars. And then finally listed here as our main event for Battleground, we've got Oba Femi defending the NXT title versus Miles Bourne. And this is kind of an improbable run that they've had Miles Bourne on the last few weeks. He won that number one contenders battle royal, and now he's looked good in these few weeks to build up to this match. He's cut some great promos. He is, if you are not familiar with Miles Bourne, if this for some reason is your first weekend watching NXT, or you're just finding this show and you don't really follow it too closely, Miles Bourne is deaf in one ear, and he cut an incredible promo a few weeks back about how he wasn't his disability and how he was going to rely on his abilities to show that he should be treated for his abilities and not, a lack of abilities or disabilities. And it was amazing. It was an amazing promo, and he has connected more with fans in like 2 weeks than I could have expected. With how they have been using him in the No Quarter Catch crew up until this point. It was such a surprise to see him win, and it's been a true joy to see him emerge and get more and more time and start to grow so confident in this role. I don't think that that's going to roll all the way to a world title win. I think that this is probably setting up to be his Randy Orton moment, for lack of a better word. I know the Randy Orton comparisons get thrown around a lot, but I could see this being the No Quarter Catch crew turns on Miles Bourne and costs him this match out of jealousy or out of whatever it might be. And then we set him up for a prominent feud with those guys to help continue to establish him. So I think Obafemi retains, but I also would not be surprised if in the next 12 months, Miles Bourne is holding that title at some point, because I think he has got everything you want a superstar to have. And he's kind of like, that's kind of what NXT is for getting belts and title runs on guys like him and seeing what they can do and giving them that opportunity. So I am thrilled to see him in this spot, and I cannot wait to see what this match looks like. I don't think it's quite his time yet. And then finally, if that is not enough wrestling for you, while NXT Battleground is going on, we will have AEW Double or Nothing. So you can just go back and forth. You can watch one and then watch the other after, whatever you want to do. But this Double or Nothing card is incredible as well. And it will definitely be going on once long after Battleground is over. If there's one thing about these AEW shows, is they have no fear going late. We have 10 matches. We have 9 main card, 1 pre-show match listed here. So we will just go Wikipedia order and see what we've got, because we first have got Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford in a tag match against Anna Jay and Harley Cameron. And this is the pre-show match. I think this is probably going to be, a fun little showcase for Megan Bayne, because a lot of these matches have been showcases for her. The inclusion of Anna Jay, I think she has enough legitimacy to make you think that they could win. But I think this is going to be a Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford win, kind of put Megan Bayne back in the forefront of people's minds after a few weeks. Maybe not as featured prominently as she was, as they've been leaning into Toni Storm's feud with Mina Shirakawa and the Eliminator matches and doing things that way. So I think that this is a win to kind of start to reestablish that. And then I don't know if this is how the show's going to open, but the first match listed here for the main card is Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes Moné in the Women's Owen Hart Cup Tournament final. I think that this is probably going to be one of the matches of the night. I think they have set themselves into a really nice spot for these Owen Hart Cup Tournament matches, these final matches, because the winner here gets the shot at All In against Timeless Toni Storm, or against Mina Shirakawa if she pulls off the upset later, but we will get to that in a few matches. And when you view it through the lens of the winner of this match goes against Timeless Toni Storm at All in Texas at their biggest show of the year event, you kind of start to think, okay, Mercedes Moné, Toni Storm is probably the biggest match for the women's side of things that AEW can book, because they have been just completely separated up until this point. But I don't know. I kind of feel like Jamie Hayter needs this win. And I feel like Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm at All In is a huge match in its own right. And it frees Mercedes up to do something really cool, like a rematch with Athena, which I would not be opposed against if they wanted to run that back in Athena's home state. I would be thrilled. So I'm going to say Jamie Hayter wins this, because I think holding off on Toni Storm and Mercedes until Mercedes isn't holding 4 other title belts might be the way to do it, because otherwise you have to do these all or nothing, everything's on the line type matchups, and that just gets convoluted quick. And I don't know that they want to just keep doing this where every belt is on one person. So I'm going to say Jamie Hayter, and I think we get 2 incredible matches at All In this way. But again, Mercedes Moné winning would not surprise me really in the least. Next up, we have got the AEW tag titles on the line. The Hurt Syndicate is defending against the Sons of Texas. If you're not familiar, the Sons of Texas are Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, the Ring of Honor tag team title holders right now, I believe, as well. And this match is interesting. I think the inclusion of Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara adds a little bit to it, but I kind of just envision this as like a total squash once again. Feels like that's all the Hurt Syndicate has been doing. I think the bigger intrigue here is what are they going to look like now that MJF is officially a member, or are they going to be quick to cast him aside and bring in like a Cedric Alexander, like has been teased? Because they had the signing for MJF to join the Hurt Syndicate last week on Dynamite, and it was a good segment. It ran on long, but it was a good segment. And they still teased some uneasiness with Bobby Lashley when it comes to MJF. And so I feel like we're not out of that yet. So I don't know if they're going to just let it run and just roll with it for a few weeks to put people off of the eventual betrayal, or if they're just going to do it quick and create an even bigger shocking moment at the pay-per-view. But I think this is a Hurt Syndicate squash win, absolutely. And then we kind of just go from there and figure out who they're going to feud with next if it's not MJF. Next up, we have that women's title match, Timeless Toni Storm defending against Mina Shirakawa. And this one's an interesting one too, because they did this thing at the end of Dynamite last week where Mina Shirakawa just randomly snapped and went super heel and did the figure 4 on Timeless Toni Storm up against the ring post after a match was over and after Toni Storm had saved her from a beatdown. And it was so weird and out of character, and then she went back up the ramp and waved goodbye and left. It was just such a weird break in character logic that I don't know if they're gonna use that as the foundation for this match and have her wrestle heel the whole time, or what it's going to be. I think that there's a giant Mariah May sized elephant in the room as well. We don't know what her contract status is. She is obviously very close to Mina Shirakawa, so I could see that being something, a way to bring her back into the fold. But I don't know that they would do it against Toni Storm because of how definitive the end of their feud was with that Hollywood ending match. I don't see Timeless Toni Storm losing now with All In on the horizon, unless it's to just drop it and go get it right back. So I'm going to say Toni Storm wins, but I think Mina Shirakawa has an incredible performance and continues to look like an absolute home run of a signing for AEW in their women's division. Next up, we have got FTR taking on Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness in a tag match. This feels like another heel win here. It feels like an FTR win to continue to get these heel characters over. I'm actually wondering if they're going to have Daniel Garcia betray Nigel McGuinness and join them and align with them. It's funny because Daniel Garcia has had some hard-hitting matches with the FTR guys since this heel turn has happened, so it'd be a little convoluted if they did it that way, but I just feel like there has to be something here to warrant a Nigel McGuinness match, because I feel like we don't get a ton of those and aren't going to get a ton of those in the foreseeable future, so they're going to be used as big moments and treated as such. So I feel like something big has to happen here, and Daniel Garcia turning heel and aligning with them and taking out Nigel McGuinness kind of fits that formula. It makes me wonder too about Adam Copeland, and if he's coming back soon to get ready for All In, because he obviously has unfinished business with FTR. So I could see him coming to help Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia, or who knows. But I think the end point for this is FTR versus Edge and Christian at All In. I just don't know how we get there. So I'm going to say FTR wins this tag match, but this is another one where the post-match angle is more important than like the winner-loser. Next up, we have got a stretcher match between Mark Briscoe and Ricochet. It's great to get these guys on the card with how hot they have both been. Specifically Ricochet, the incredible run that he is on. Dude had a match with Zach Gowen a couple weeks ago, just like the most despicable heel move ever, ripping the prosthetic leg off of someone. Like, it's just, he's been such a revelation since going heel in AEW. Just some incredible character work that I think people probably didn't expect from him. So I think Ricochet wins this for sure and continues this hot start to 2025 and this run that he has been on. He just needs to start looking for some gold at the same time as well, because like all of these one-offs and side feuds are great for deepening his character and continuing to get crowds to hate him. But at some point here, I think he has to turn his attention to some gold. And then next we have got Anarchy in the arena, and this is a weird one because I don't know if these are the actual lineups we're going to get. It's Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale, and the Ops, Shibata, Samoa Joe, and Powerhouse Hobbs, taking on the Death Riders, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Marina Shafir, Wheeler Yuta, and the Young Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. And I don't think this is what the final lineups are going to be. I don't know if we add one more to each side or what, but they have had Gabe Kidd over in AEW the last 2 weeks, and he did some media appearances talking about doing Anarchy in the arena. And like, I don't think they would do all these teases. They had him at the Go Home show this last week on Dynamite. I can't imagine that they would do all of that and then he's not in the match. And the popular theory here is that Gabe Kidd will either take someone out of the babyface team or just be a surprise another addition to the match, and it'll force the babyfaces to find one more who will either be a returning Hook or a returning Eddie Kingston. Both of those are some pretty popular theories I've seen online, and I can get behind either of those, honestly. I can get behind Hook coming back or Eddie Kingston coming back. I think that Eddie Kingston makes a lot of sense when you consider Gabe Kidd, I think, is who he was wrestling when he got hurt last year. So it would not surprise me if they used that as a way to bring him back in. But it's so weird. It's so weird that they would have Gabe Kidd be so involved in the lead up to this show and then just not listed as part of the match, which is what makes me think there has to be something planned here for this. I do want to say, though, shout out to them for finally putting women in Anarchy in the arena. Obviously, it's not a full women's match, but Marina Shafir and Willow Nightingale and their feud is perfect for this type of setting. And I think they're honestly probably going to show out. They're probably going to have some of the better spots. I know it's hard to say when you have, a match with Jon Moxley and Swerve in it. It's hard to say that anyone's going to just out sicko them. But I think if anyone could, it would be Willow and Marina Shafir. So I'm excited to see that dynamic. just because it's something we haven't seen before. But I'm going to say the baby faces get the win, and we get some huge return that plays a part in it. Stick with me, guys. 3 more matches left. I know it's a lot of wrestling this weekend, like I said. So 3 more matches on this card. We have got Kazuchika Okada defending the AEW Continental title against Speedball Mike Bailey. And this should be a slam dunk Mike Bailey win. I would love to see it, but we have built towards an Okada Omega match at All In so much already with subtle moments and exchanges that I cannot see them abandoning that now. Obviously, Kenny Omega is, I believe, the international champion right now. So they could always feud for that belt if they wanted to put this one on Speedball. But I could see an Omega Okada match being for all the gold very easily. So I think Okada is going to win this. I will be very happy for Speedball if he pulls off the upset. But I think Okada wins it, and then we finally start to go full on towards Okada and Omega happening at All In. Next, we have a trios match that I think was a late addition. It's the Paragon, which is what they are calling Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong, and they are taking on the John Callis family members, Konosuke Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, and Josh Alexander. And this is an interesting one because I think that they need to build up more legitimate trios contenders. Especially with the Ops now hopefully making the titles a bit more visible than they were with the Death Riders in the last few bits of that reign. So I could easily see Don Callis family winning and turning this group's attention towards the trios titles. But the thing that holds me back on that is Takeshita, Fletcher, and Josh Alexander all feel like singles title kind of guys. Like, not that the trios titles are below them, but that they work as singles characters, even if they're all part of the same stable. So I think that this might actually be a Paragon win, and we start to build towards the Paragon eventually becoming trios champions, because, you know, when you consider these guys and their history and their chemistry, the 3 of them holding a trios title certainly makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to say we get an upset here, and I'm going to say the Paragon pull off the upset. Now, I'm probably definitely wrong, but I'm going to say the Paragon get the upset. And then finally, we have our main event. It is the men's final of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. It is for the title shot at All In, Texas. It is Hangman Adam Page versus Will Ospreay in what will probably be one of, if not the best match of the weekend, because these 2 dudes are on fire right now. The promo that they cut together on Wednesday was unreal. Hangman Adam Page is someone who is just so good at being a pro wrestler, because everything he says and does and acts and just everything about him is such a polished, complete, finished character. He has such a grasp on what and who Hangman Adam Page is. It's incredible to watch him wrestle and cut these promos and live in these words. And I think honestly part of that is true to Ospreay too. I think Ospreay is surprising a lot of people with these promo segments, because that was always something that was considered like a weak point for him. But I think he's really starting to prove people wrong with that as well. And I love his style of promo because it's so unabashedly him that I don't think he could like read a script or a prompt or anything, because his style is just so uniquely him. And I think that kind of, it endears him in a different way. Now, all of that said was kind of just to buy me time to make a decision here, because I have no idea who is going to win this match. I think in my heart, I think it's going to be Will Ospreay gets the win, and Will Ospreay gets the moment of winning at All In over Jon Moxley. And the reason I came to that is I was thinking about the promo between these guys and Hangman Adam Page, and him talking about like needing it and needing the redemption in the fans' eyes, because the fans never really stopped cheering for him, even when he started doing terrible things. And I don't think, and this is going to sound crazy in the realm of a pro wrestling storyline, I don't think he has had enough redemption quite yet. He has had moments where he has seemed to revert back to babyface Hangman, and he has moments where he is not. And I think there are hurdles he still needs to clear to fully return to that babyface status. So I think Will Ospreay gets this moment and gets this win, because Hangman still has exploring to do, and some rebuilding of himself to do. And what that includes, I don't know. I would love it to include a tag team with Swerve Strickland to take on the Young Bucks at All In. I would love that to be where we're going here with this. It's kind of the last step in Hangman's redemption. Then we send him back out as a mega baby face to go after whoever has the championship, or whatever else they're gonna have him do. I just think that now, looking at all of the pieces in this story, and looking at Osprey's rise, and his positioning as the one of the top stars in the company, it just feels like his moment. And I say all this knowing very well it could be freezing cold takes in 2 days. But I'm gonna say Will Ospreay gets the win. And we get an interesting dynamic in Hangman, because Hangman is someone who everything he does is interesting. And there we go. That is it. That is 3 wrestling shows in 2 days. So, like I said, if you are someone who watches both or tries to keep up with everything, it is going to be a long weekend. But I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for all of these. And I think that speaks to how good a spot wrestling is in, that all 3 of these shows have things that greatly appeal to me and that I'm excited to see. So I hope more fans feel that way too. I know there's a lot of instances lately where fans watch one and not the other, and there's so much tribalism going on back and forth. But there really is a lot of good wrestling happening across all of these shows. And honestly, if it's not for you, that's totally fine. That's totally understandable. And that's kind of the mentality I always try to have with it, is I know I'm not going to see things on AEW that I would see on NXT or Raw or SmackDown, and vice versa. I'm never going to see whatever's going to happen in that Anarchy in the Arena match anywhere on WWE programming, ever. That's a safe bet. So I think that there is such a value in having these companies like this, and I'm disappointed that it's all being run at the same time. Obviously, like, it's going to happen because it's competition. It's competing companies that want your attention on a big holiday weekend. So I understand that. I just wish it was a way that people could watch everything, that didn't come with then having to, like, oh, you're picking one over the other. I just think that that's played out at this point in 2025. Like, just watch what you like and enjoy what you like. And keep an open mind, because there's wrestling happening all over the world. TNA just had an incredible pay-per-view Friday night. I'm recording this late Friday, so tonight. They had a great pay-per-view, and that completely different wrestling than what you would see on either of these other shows. So like I said, keep an open mind. Watch as much wrestling as you want to or don't want to. That is totally cool too. But hopefully, whatever you do watch, you enjoy. We will see what happens. I might, depending on how this all goes, record some sort of follow-up recapping everything, or maybe just key points from 1 or 2 of the shows. We'll see how it all unfolds. But more importantly, I appreciate everyone listening, watching. I hope you enjoy this holiday weekend. Enjoy the time off if you are fortunate enough to get the extra day off for the 3-day weekend. And most important of all, enjoy this weekend of wrestling. Take care, and I will see you next time.